February 1979. It was around, I think it was around the 19th of February. And at that time, myself and my twin brother and my younger brother Nathan, we used to work to our farm in the evenings, you know, to help Sean do the milking. And you can imagine in February at around 6 o'clock in the evening, it was pitch dark. I came to an opening in a ditch, in the ditch at the side of the road, where I saw, in the distance, I saw a light. It looked like if somebody was lighting a pipe. So I shouted from the distance, but there was no response and nothing. But anyway, when I got to the gate, I climbed the gate, I looked around, there was nobody there, and I had just assumed that there was somebody there earlier. And I just got into the field when I heard a noise, and it sounded like a farm gate, hollow farm gate that falling on concrete. It sort of resonated. You could nearly feel it, you know? So that sort of shocked me a bit. When I walked into the field, there was a hill at the far side, over about, I suppose, a mile away. There's a hill, and I noticed a light coming up over the hill, just immediately after I heard the noise. And then it was a round-shaped object with spinning lights, and the noise was still there. I could hear that low drone of a noise. And then, well, I started saying the Hail Marys there and then, you know. And the field beside me, the grass beside me lit up. It was like just pure bright. It was like a beam of light. But just one beam. It wasn't, although the lights were spinning, it was just one beam. And then it moved to other sections of the field. At that point, I had moved towards the ditch. I went into the ditch, actually. And I was very, very nervous. I was just very frightened. Very, very frightened.
So that's just a little bit of background. I can see the spot where we saw it.
And we were hearing about in Mexico where people were taking pictures of a certain part of the sky with an ordinary camera and then with an infrared camera. And with the ordinary camera you can see absolutely nothing, with the infrared camera you can see the UFO there. It was unbelievable. So what we did was this: we got the boat out the 21st of May, had been a rainy all morning, the rain stopped, and so we decided to come from this angle here, coming across the island. And all I did was I just snapped as I went across, all the way down below the island here, about 40 snaps or thereabouts. There's a sequence of events that happened here. You can see a small little object here and a bigger object here. This smaller object there on the top, have you got it handy on the third one? Yeah. This smaller object in sequence comes in from the top right. I've 3 photographs of it coming in from the top right over towards the island, and it's joined in by this one here. Yeah, that's the same one, and it's joined on the bottom with this other object here. And if you can see where this final object ends up, or the final photograph that I took at the time, is in the exact same position as the object that was taken months beforehand, 5 months beforehand, on the 1st of the 1st. So both of those positions are exactly the same, except the one that was taken in January is just a little higher.
I'm Betty Myler. I'm the president of the UFO Society of Ireland. I wasn't interested in UFOs to start with, never knew anything at all about them before. And then in 1996, an article appeared in one of the Sunday Nationals, and it said that there'd been a UFO crash, purported UFO crash, in the Carrick Mountains. Carrick Mountains are just outside of Boyle, County Roscommon. These two gentlemen came down and did a presentation in one of the pubs in Boyle. I went just out of curiosity and was quite fascinated by what I heard. And then talking to the townspeople later on, there seemed to be such a lot of interest, and so many people seemed to have seen things maybe 20, 30 years before that, that I said, well, let's get together and form a little society and maybe meet once a month or something like that. And you know, just exchange views and stories, etc., etc. And people seem to be saying the same story, which was, I saw something 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, never told anybody before, except my mother. My mother said to keep quiet, what will the neighbours think? And isn't it great to talk to somebody now who will listen to me, and more than that, who will believe me? That was the important thing. The most important sighting I had was on the 19th of November 1999. I was looking out of my bedroom window and I overlooked the town of Boyle. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning, so it was darkish, fairly dark. And I saw a big orange cigar-shaped object go through the sky from west to east. So it wasn't a helicopter, it didn't seem to be a plane, I just couldn't think what it was. And as I was watching it, I saw another one. And then another one, 7 of them all together. So a little later on, I phoned one of my members, he's very psychic, and I said, listen to me, this is what I saw this morning, see if you can find something out for me. And this gentleman channels. So he came back a little later and he said he had a message for me. And the message was this, it was, tell Betty that the UFOs she saw were there to assist the passage of time to ensure the correct sequence of events in the new millennium.
My name is Eamon Ansborough. I'm an astronomer and director of Kingsland Observatory, Boyle, County Roscommon. Let us assume that it is extraterrestrials. There's the possibility that could we communicate with them. I had noticed one particular case in Papua New Guinea where there was a mission out in the jungles where there was 38 natives and 2 priests who witnessed a spacecraft. And the interesting thing was that the natives started waving to the craft, and 3 or 4 bipeds, individuals, came outside the craft and started waving back. Whenever UFOs are seen, some people get rather excited by them, where other people are very fear them. But the people that are excited about them, on occasions have asked the UFO, would you like to come a bit closer? And lo and behold, the UFO actually comes closer. That's very exciting, which would tell me that they must be using some sort of thought patterns. They may have some sort of consciousness-assisted technology or technology-assisted consciousness in the craft itself. I mean, everybody has thought forms, even animals and cats have thought forms. But I think it's a situation where if we could apply thought, we might have another potential there in the communications.
It's not a case of, is there UFOs, is there life out there? I mean, we've got to really wake up and smell the coffee, because it really exists. They are out there. If you look in the night sky, and you don't even have to be open-minded or anything. You can look out into the sky and you can see things all the time. Yes, some of them are satellites. Yes, some of them are planets that's very close. And yes, some of them are stars that are glowing. But in amongst all this, you see ships that have all sorts of coloured lights on them that are flashing at you. The really interesting thing is, and I know this happens because it happens to me, and this goes back to the thought process. The thought process is moved slightly on from remote viewing, so it's something called co-creative. It's a fascinating concept, which moves a little bit further into what we are inside, because the mind is the contact point with extraterrestrials. And going back to the adage of actually thinking, I want to see a craft, you've got to mentally, through your mind, project that craft onto the ground or onto the sky.
It's very hard to describe the feeling you get when you see an actual UFO. There's a great sense of privilege that you know, whoever or whatever's in that vehicle is allowing you to see them. This is not just a random occurrence. This is something that seems to be orchestrated by them. I think they call the shots, and they send me a message, if you like. If I'm free, I respond, and then the communion begins, and I try and obviously record that on videotape as evidence or proof. It's a very strong, powerful feeling when one is presented or one sees an object that obviously isn't an aircraft or a helicopter or whatever. It's a very strong sense that you're being watched, and a strange kind of purity about the whole situation. In terms of who they are, I can only talk from my own experiences and from my previous partner Vicky. She claimed that she was being visited by the small grey type entities who are very commonly reported to come from the Zeta Reticuli system, which is a local binary star system. It's approximately 35 light years away. So I can only speculate that it's them or someone related to them. It's just pure conjecture, but I try and visualise who they are, and I tend to get the kind of grey humanoid type of being.
They want to scientifically prove that UFOs are real. Well, I didn't need science to do that for me. I sort of deduced it on my own. Science can be helpful, but it tends to only sort of want to prove what's in its best interest.
MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network. It's an international civilian UFO research group, started 37 years ago by Walt Andrus and John Schuessler. It is a grassroots organization that attempts to put researchers onto the case to check out whatever details we're dealing with. Burn marks in the ground, people with photographs, whatever. I mean, it runs a whole gamut of what people claim to see. So they've tried to be a sort of an organization of reason and legitimacy, scientific legitimacy. Exopolitics is a word that you won't find in too many dictionaries. It really, I think, is the marriage of the reality of the UFO with the planetary political systems that are either currently in place or ones that we need to build, essentially, or to reorganize our political structure such that it's not about countries, and it's not about large international, corporations, and it's not about militarism. It's about providing the necessities for our planet. Mostly people worry about both the scientific and the religious impact that the UFO reality would cause, I guess, a great amount of consternation. But the politics of the day is really, it's all about control, and the UFO would challenge that status quo as well, I think quite dramatically.
Before anything else, I think that to have a massive design appearing out of the blue is absolutely, totally amazing. It's just not normal. It's not an occurrence that anybody could call normal. So already it makes us review the way we see reality. And the more you study crop circle, the more your understanding of reality changes. You begin to realize that actually there's a much greater picture that we're not aware of and that we don't take into consideration. And that the world is much more sensitive than we think. It's much more complex, it's much more alive and conscious than we realize. And that becomes very clear with the crop circle, because there is an interaction between those who study it and the phenomenon, and it's leading us to various areas of thinking. Another thing I've learned is it is best to really only see the facts. And I can tell people what happened, what it does to the ground, what it does to the plant, the size, the complexity, the meaning, how it's opening things up. I can't tell you the origin, the point of origin, we don't know. We know it's projected, that we can calculate. It's a mathematical fact. You can work out the degree of the angle of projection. It is a projection, it's not a construction. Well, I could produce probably around 6,000 designs, and they're all different, and they all fit into lines of symbols. So there's some great lines of symbols, at least a dozen, and they fit into that. And when you look at these lines of symbols, you see a progression, and one leads to the other, It's exactly like a teaching. It's exactly like going to university or to school, And each line is a teaching. So we move from one to the other, and we learn a little bit more, and then it picks up there, and it opens up, and it makes us explore the cosmos, it makes us explore the ancient tradition, it makes us explore the new idea in physics, it makes us explore the concept of multi-dimension. So we are actually being taught a universal way of thinking.
Hi, this is Aktan Akdogan. I am the chairman and founder of Turkish UFO Research Center and International UFO Museum, which is located in Istanbul, Turkey. We also organize international congresses. In 1996 we started off with our TV shows, documentaries. In 1997 we established the UFO Research Center, and after doing many TV shows, and we became quite known by the public. So, and we start getting a lot of reports and a lot of data. 93 to 95% of the reports and the footages, they happen to be natural phenomena, either meteorological weather balloon or satellites or some helicopters or some planet Venus or whatever. But there's quite a lot of footages that I shared some of them with the audience in Ireland. You see the objects way beyond our conventional technology, the maneuvering they do zigzagging, they disappear and reappear, they do 90-degree turns, and you see the actual structure of the object with no wings and tails and so on, and they go with quite incredible speeds. In Quran it says that there's some references about other life forms in the universe. It says that there's 18,000 dimensions, so there are other life forms in the skies.
I'm Dag Garrity. I'm a guide priest in the Raelian movement, and I am National Guide of Ireland. But in 1973, Claude Boyle, who was a Frenchman, had an encounter in a volcano in central France, and he met beings from another planet, and they gave him messages. The primary message is that 25,000 years ago, all life on Earth was created by them, the Elohim. They had to twig and tweet a few things, so that at that time the planet was all full of water, so they managed through underground explosions to drain some of the water and make the first, or the continent. What the Elohim tell us is that they created life, they left us alone, they went off about their business, and all during the centuries they have sent prophets down to guide us. Muhammad, Buddha, Jesus, and now the last of the prophets, Rael. The fundamental beliefs that we hold to will be love, peace and harmony. We must first love ourselves, we must love humanity, we must be at peace with the rest of humanity, and we must be in harmony with the worlds that we live in. And unless we do that, we're not going to succeed. We're not even going to get out of this millennium that we're living in, because we're going to destroy ourselves. And that's what I love about conferences like this. Even though you might have 10 speakers and they're all coming from different angles, there's one thing that came across throughout this whole conference, is that we're all at one. We are all believing in the same thing. We're coming at it from different angles, but let's hope that someday we'll all unite in the middle, and then are at the crossroads, and decide at that crossroads which direction we're all going to go, and let's all go in that direction together.